good morning, my good friends. So good to have you join me this morning. So, we're about to have a great time, and we've got some great guests with us today. My co hosts will be joining me in a few minutes. I have Morten and Jonas. Morten from Denmark and Jonas from Sanctuary in Kenya. We're going to talk about the project that they're doing. Zach from Convictions is going to join us in just a few minutes as well. And if you haven't heard Convictions, they are awesome. I can't wait to dig in and get to know more about them. Zach is a phenomenal drummer, and we want to learn all that they're doing. They're on tour right now, so we appreciate that Zach is taking some time out to chat with us today. But I'm especially glad that you're here with us. And folks, if you're just joining us, would you sign in? Let me know where you're watching from. It's kind of fun to see where people join us from. I know most people, there are thousands of people that join after the fact. Some of you can't watch it, when we're live, but many of you can. And I love that we have an international audience. So it's just good to know where you're from. So if you could, once you get online, just check in. Let me know where you're watching from. So lots of great things going on. And uh, I wanted to promote something that I don't usually do, but a lot of people have abandoned their New Year's resolutions by this time. And I've been suggesting a few to you, but um, a lot of it has to do with reading. And I told you last time that there is so much that you can gain by starting your day with the Lord and starting your day with something that will help. Um, One of my older books called Seriously was released just a few months ago in this version, the devotional version. And it became a daily devotional, something you can write in, something you can do in snippets every day. And this is a book that I wrote. It's called Letters to Myself at 21. What would I tell myself, my 72-year-old self, at 21 years old? And there's some things I'd love for you to know in here. You can go to our website to get this, just wearemetalwearefamily.com. We'll take you there, and we have these in stock right now. And my other books too. If you haven't done the Metal Devo Daily Devotional, 365-day devotional, pick that up as well. Sean, good morning to you from Southern California, San Diego. San Diego, sunny San Diego. It's sunny here in Tennessee as well. Stephen Cole from Oklahoma. Good to see you, Stephen. Great people joining us, folks. Let us know where you're watching from. It's always good to see where people are watching from. So Joshua is here. Good morning to you. And Joshua, let us know where you're watching from, my friend. That would be a cool thing to do. So wherever you're watching from, whatever social media, we're on quite a few of them live right now. Andreas is here, joining from Illinois, and Andreas is actually part of At the Mountain that we're going to talk about. He's joining from Illinois, but soon joining from Denmark once again. Andreas from Sanctuary in Denmark. So we're excited to have him back at the helm again, and that'll be pretty cool. Forrest, good morning from Lansing, Michigan. And so far, everyone from the United States. How about that? Thank you again, folks, for joining. Stephen from Springfield, Ohio. Speaking of Ohio, you know that the Sanctuary 40th anniversary this summer at Immortal Fest in Ohio. We're excited to have you there, and we've got some really exciting things to bring. We've been doing this. We've been pioneering Christian heavy metal for 40 years now. We started with Stryper, as you know. Michael Sweet was our first worship leader, and we've been doing it ever since. And we're in a lot of countries and a lot of places, and it has certainly been a great time. And We are compiling a lot of video footage. There's a movie that'll be shown, Sanctuary, the first 40 years. And I intend to be here in another 40 years to show part two. Just saying, hoping. That'll be great. Joshua from near Chicago. Great. All right. Our good friend Rex Carroll is from that area as well. Robert is here from Eagan, Minnesota. Good to see you as well. And awesome. So next week, folks, we have Rob Rock with us. I'm excited to have him here. Not only Rob, but Hayden Cockrow will be my co-host. As you know, Hayden has put out 2 graphic novels. We used to call them comic books, but these are novels. He does all the artwork and the whole thing, and Sanctuary Publishing, and we're excited for what Hayden is doing. He does a lot of our graphics, and we're going to have him on talking about the books and how they're doing, and that'll be coming up too. Thomas, good morning from Texas. Good friends in Texas. So a lot of things coming up, folks, that we want to talk about. Good morning, Sanctuary family from Albert in Winnipeg, Canada. So our Canadians are good friends to the north. So those of you internationally, by the way, we're going to bring on Morton in just a minute, Morton and Jonas, but Morton is from Denmark. I'm going to be in Denmark in March. We're going to do a little bit of a music and talking thing there. I will also be in Switzerland at Elements of Rock again, and I'll be speaking also at Light the Dark Festival in Sweden. In September, I'm going to be at Loud and Proud Festival with Striper, and looking forward to being with all of you there in Germany as well. So some good things coming up. If you are a part of our international audience, love to see you there. So this weekend, we have our gathering. And this weekend, it's Close Encounters time. And I'm excited for that to happen. We call it the Gathering. We do it once a month, the first Saturday of every month. And there are a lot of people you'd probably know there, a lot of bands, a lot of Sanctuary people. Some have been with us for 40 years, some are newer. But so we've got the worship, we've got food, we've got all kinds of good things. And then every Sunday morning, including this coming Sunday, we've got our fellowship, our church service, and not like any church service you've been to. Of course, our worship team and our worship band. The worship team, a lot of them have been with us for a while. Drummer for Vengeance, Jim from Barren Cross, Chris from Fear Not. A bunch of guys make up the worship team. Then we have the worship band that's a whole lot more heavy metal, and that worship band will be playing on Saturday. So lots of good things coming up, folks. We'd love to have you be part of that as well. So, but especially, I'd like to invite you to come to the Sanctuary 40th anniversary that will be this summer in Ohio at the Immortal Fest, the first one, the last week of July. We have an action-packed show. Vengeance is going to be playing on stage with us on Sunday. There is rumor that Pastor Bob's playing with them. We'll have to see. I know. But they haven't been on stage for decades, and we're excited to bring it back and a little nostalgia. Vengeance, we put the band together in 1986, and it was the first of its kind in Christian music, with more of the growling and the heavy voice. And we were it's such a great project, and I'm excited to have the guys back on stage. And our friend Luke from our fellowship here, Luke Easter, who is playing with Stop the Bleeding right now, old tourniquet singer, will be doing the vocals also for Vengeance. So it's kind of an in-house thing and a fun thing to do. We're excited for that. Well, I want to bring on my co-hosts this morning, Jonas from Kenya and Morten from Denmark. Guys, good morning to you. Good to see you both. There we go.
Hey.
Hey, Bob.
Actually, good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening from Kenya.
Good evening from Kenya. Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah. Well,
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Jonas, you look like it's cold there, and it can't possibly be cold right now in Kenya.
I don't know what's wrong with the weather here. I mean, this is actually supposed to be our hottest month. This is our summer.
Yes.
But the rains started coming. We're not supposed to have rain right now, and they came. And temperature has now dropped to around 30 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
So it's still hot, yes, still hot. But,
This is extremely hot.
but it's cold for us because it used to be hotter.
That's great. I like that. The temperature has dropped to 30 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. People are going 30 degrees Celsius. You know, you don't have weather that warm in Denmark, do you, Morten?
Rarely. Actually, last year I was with Jonas in Kenya right now, so I can testify that it can get pretty hot. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Well, you guys, we have some exciting things to talk about today. And folks, as you know, this project called At the Mountain is such an exciting worship project. And I want you to see a little bit of what they're doing. And why don't we, John, roll that video and then let's talk about it. awesome, awesome. I love that, you guys. And very exciting to see all this coming to fruition. You guys have been working hard on this project for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
About
It's
a
actually,
year now,
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
But
So,
but you
yeah,
see, for a long time, for us, a year actually feels like a short time.
yeah, it
A
does.
lot of bands will spend years to
Yeah,
get to the point where we're getting to at now. Yeah. So yes, a year is a long time, but in terms of writing and creating music, it's a short time.
yes.
mm,
Well, and in that time, you've got a lot accomplished. You are working between countries, which isn't easy. And if you couldn't tell that those the video was shot in Kenya, but you know, and it's interesting. People say, "Wait a minute, heavy metal Kenya," but here we are. So very cool. So
yeah.
I want to make some announcements today, and this is a huge one. You know, watching us right now are people that have been with Sanctuary for a very long time. We have some people watching us that have been with us for 40 years, and they followed all the bands that we've had. And you know, when we first started out, we couldn't get any of the record companies to take most of the bands. We had a lot of bands in the church, and you know, Striper had gotten signed, but it was almost impossible to get everybody else signed. And one of the first things we did was to do a compilation album called California Metal, and then we did another one called California Metal Volume 2. We did East Coast Metal, we did Ultimate Metal, we did a few different projects trying to get the bands out there, compilation albums, and then of course, and then Intense Records. And not that we wanted to be a record company, but um, it was pretty important to get the ball rolling and to get the music out there. And a lot of work. And after Intense Records and Diamante Distribution and all the of those things, I said we will never, ever, ever do a record company again. So I'm excited to announce that we're doing a record company again. So guys, here we are, and we've got some great things to announce. So Morton and Jonas, let's talk about what this looks like. We're doing all this together. Um, we hope that people will be inspired so that they can join us in the projects. And the first thing will be At the Mountain, which is the first worship project. There are others going on, Sanctuary Holland. We've got 2 projects going on here. We've got others around the world. And I'm excited for us to lead with worship. So, Morton and Jonas, let's talk about this label a little bit. Let's talk about what it looks like. First of all, let's tell everybody what it's called. Go ahead, I'll let you announce it.
Yeah, so we thought about this Intense Records was this Intense name is pretty cool. So we thought about why don't we call this Intense Worship? So Intense Worship Records, and we thought about what could we like sneak Sanctuary in there, but they would just get too long, like Sanctuary, Intense, whatever. So
Yeah,
Intense Worship Records is probably going to be the name, and then we'll of course have Sanctuary all over it once you
yeah,
get on the website and the stuff that we do. Yeah, so Intense Worship Records. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and it's very exciting. And
Yeah.
we felt for over a year now, and it's interesting, you guys, how God has put this very thing on so many people's hearts individually, and then we find out that you know that we're all kind of in the same
Yeah.
group here, but to really lead with worship, and
Yeah.
that
I remember I reached out to you, I think exactly a year ago, I think. And I
yeah,
told you, Bob, that I was just coming home from Africa from a month of traveling with my family, and I felt the Lord was calling me back there for some reason. So I went home to drop my family off and went back down there again for a week, just to write music and be in prayer and figure out what this could be, because we felt Jonas and I and Terry felt like there was some worship music that needed to be written, and we felt a calling to do that. And I told you about it. And I thought, okay, what's going to be of this?
Yes.
And you were really excited because you already were talking to other folks who were saying the same thing. So you were starting to see signs of a small movement here. And here we are a year later, starting a record label and putting out music and inviting people on to it. So that is extremely exciting.
I love that. And it's so great. And you know, neither Jonas or Morten are strangers to bands and music. And Morten, you were in basically the first Christian heavy metal band in Denmark called Barricades. Great band. And some of you that are watching from Denmark, that was your first favorite band. That's how you started, a lot of you. Jonas, you've been in a couple different projects through the years. I've known you, and I've known you quite a long time now.
Oh yeah.
Little drummer. So you guys have done this before, but this is a little different. And then is Captain Rosalind still officially going, Morten? Your band?
No, I think it's on a official hiatus right now. Also because I'm mostly writing for this project. But yeah, we've been involved in a lot of hardcore and metalcore and whatever core you want to call it. As heavy as possible with screaming and singing and stuff for close to, is it 20 years? Yeah, involved in a lot of stuff. And it's funny to see how all these different strings sort of come together in this project.
Awesome. Well, I met Morten and Andreas at Bobfest in Sweden one year, and I've just really enjoyed working with them ever since. And that was a great meeting and a great time to get involved together. I've been to Denmark several times then, and really looking forward to coming back in March as well. So, Intense Worship Records, and again, leading with worship. So this isn't just a project for At the Mountain. Talk about this a little bit, Jonas. This could be something that other worship bands would be interested in.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because when Morten reached out to me after he came here the first time here in Kenya, we talked about this, and we really felt like it should be worship, lead with worship, but it should be a community. So we started thinking, okay, are we even supposed to be a band, or should we just invite like 100 people to start writing stuff and throw it all together, or should we just write stuff and make it available for everybody to go and use in the churches, or what should be the format? And I think it will end up kind of being a mix of of both. And it's interesting with this opportunity to have a record because it means we can actually start getting all this music released. Even people who sit and have solo projects or worship projects, on their own, other bands around the world can actually now get this released on all the leading platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Tidal, and so on. There are so many places. And still own all the rights to their music, and so it's great opportunity to get some exposure and also to meet other bands who are like-minded, other musicians.
Yes.
So because we started afterwards to just start writing, after that whole discussion we had like a year ago, Morten and Terry and I, then we started just saying, let's write our own music to start with, and then see if there are other people out there. Because we didn't know if there was a community yet or anything. So we just said, let's start writing. So we're writing. We have At the Mountain, which is kind of like our project. But we really want these songs to also be available to other people, to be able to somehow use in their churches and so on. So I know Morten, he is sitting right now working on making a lot of videos on instruction videos on how to play the songs and stuff like this, so people can actually learn how to play and how to actually use the songs if they want to. But then this whole calling with this worship, Intense Worship Records came in as well, and it just adds to that community because we'll be much more closely knit together, and we can release together, and we'll stand much stronger as a family together this way. So
absolutely.
it's just super exciting, and it happened quite fast, and it's already up and running. It's registered. We're good to go. So it's
Awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
And a lot more good news to follow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So another thing, and Morten, maybe we can talk about this a little bit. We're also about to start a live podcast like this one for worship, and it's called Intense Worship. I know. But anyway, uh, and it'll be these two guys, Morten and Jonas. Mouse will join us also from Holland. Jim Laverty here, our worship massa, will join us from Barron Cross from the Sanctuary Worship, and those four guys will have a monthly show about worship and inviting other worship, heavy metal worship leaders, and just talking about the whole thing. So, Morten, talk a little bit about that. Do you have some ideas for the podcast and some direction to go as well?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this, Bob, and I think this is a really good idea to give it a platform and give it a format where we can invite people on and discuss these things and talk about this, what it looks like to people, different countries and across the world. And we will just try and bring on everybody and anybody who's interested in this, who's done something like this or dream of doing it. Could be existing bands who would consider doing take a little break for a year, maybe do a record label, sorry, a worship record, and then maybe get back to regular records or whatever you want to call it. And could also be bands just doing like one song or whatever. So really just trying to dive into it and also pray together and seek the Lord for what this is all about. Because since we're so many who feel like calling to do this, I think definitely the Lord is in this somehow. There's some plans to figure out around this. So I'm super excited for the podcast format.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Well, folks, pray for this project. And if you're a band with some worship stuff that you'd like to get out there, let us know. We've got a great team of people here that are kind of going to consider everything. Of course, we can't put everything through the label, but we'd love to consider some things that we really feel like God has anointed and that need some exposure. And I think that will be great. And very exciting music coming out soon from At the Mountain. So, guys, stay with me. We have Zach from Convictions coming up. Great band. I know you've heard them, and
Awesome band. Yeah.
yeah, we've been
Yeah.
excited to have Zach on the show, and we're going to talk to Zach, and we'll have these guys stay with us as well. Great conversation. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And let me just announce real quickly, along with the new worship podcast, Doug Van Pelt, who is one of our podcasters from Heaven's Metal Magazine, we'll be doing a live show also. So we're excited for that once a month. Our special guest today is Zach from Convictions. Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you here.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. So, Zach, you're actually on tour right now.
Yeah, I'm at my mom's house right now. I live in Denver, Colorado, but I fly
Yeah.
back here, rehearse with the boys here. The band's from Ohio. I'm
Yeah.
originally from Ohio.
Great.
And yeah, we head out tonight actually for tour. So, because we play in Greensboro, North Carolina tomorrow. So we got a long drive. So we're gonna rehearse today and then make our way down there.
Awesome. Zach, you
Oh,
guys
that's awesome.
do a lot of traveling, don't you?
Yeah, I do a lot of traveling. I do.
Yeah. I was looking at your tour schedule, past, present, and future, and you guys have put on a lot of miles.
Yeah, we sure have.
Yeah.
We're like on our fourth or fifth van.
Yeah. Well,
So,
Zach, I'd love to dig in just a little bit and do a little more of a deep dive with the band.
sure. Yeah.
I know you're from Colorado, or living in Colorado at this point. One of my favorite places, by the way. Love Colorado. But tell us a little bit of the history of Convictions. When did it start? How did the band form? And some of those key things.
Yeah. So the band formed. We started jamming in 2010.
Okay.
Me and some of the original members, and we wrote some songs, and then we just kind of stopped, and we ended up recording. We got back together in like a year later and said we should at least record those songs, you know. And so we put those on our first record, which came out in 2012. We recorded it in 2011.
Mm,
So, and then, here we are, um, what, 12, 13 years later. And we've been through various lineup changes in that. Um, yeah, it's crazy. It's been a crazy ride.
that's awesome. Awesome. And you've been playing with some major acts. I noticed that one of the festivals that you're playing coming up is Slipknot and a few of the other bands that are on the marquee. Did you ever see that happening for the band? Did you?
Yeah, if we like, Mike and I are one of the originals, I guess. I
Yeah,
think you guys have had Mike on the show.
yes.
Technically, Mike's not original, but we kind of grandfather him in because he's been in the band, 12 and a half years out of 13. So, um, but yeah, we kind of look at each other even last night at rehearsal, and we're like, dude, if we would have told ourselves we'd be playing these gigs 10 years ago, we would have just laughed at it. So,
Yeah,
it's still hard to believe.
that is so good.
That's
So,
so awesome.
but and also another thing, and I'll let these guys comment too. But one of the other things that I'm so impressed with is the quality of the work. Now, not only are the songs very well done, the videos are phenomenal. My favorite one, "Fear of God," which is such a great song, by the way. Um, the video is fantastic. Do you have some people on your team that are doing video, or how do how do you how does all the mechanics work with the band?
Yeah, so our old bass player, John, who sang on the second and third, he sang on the second and third full lengths while we were on In Vogue Records. John, our bass player, he started doing video. Convictions has always been like, let's keep everything in house. Let's try not to have people, because it's one, it's expensive, and
Yeah,
two, just to like less hands in your pocket, I guess. So John started doing video work probably over 10 years ago. So he still does our stuff, um, which
excellent.
is really cool. He's
Yeah,
gotten really good.
no, he's really good. Very, very talented.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and it's an old member that does our videos.
So great.
Cool.
Well, you guys go ahead and ask some questions too if you'd like. Do you have anything in mind?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, because your lyrics clearly are very direct. A lot of them are, and you also describe some of it as being, like aggressive worship. How do other people receive that when you go out for shows with bands that might not necessarily have the same beliefs as you? How is it perceived? How is it received by other people?
Yeah, so I think other bands probably judge us before they even take us out.
Mm,
Just being a Christian band, um, we probably don't get as much opportunity as other um, if we were a secular band. We are now, but it's taken us over a decade. So I think that um, people we have had secular bands that have taken us out that I wouldn't think they would be down for it, but they're like all like these guys are cool and we get down with that, you know? So it's once they get to know us um beyond like our label as a Christian band, as Christians, they tend to open up more. But I feel like to answer your question, bands are very um, reserved at first and probably
Hmm.
hesitant to even take us out on tour
Yeah.
um, because of the Christian name. And
Hmm.
that's sad. It shouldn't be like that, you know. It really shouldn't.
yeah.
I think it's just
That's
got this bad taste, and they have this preconceived notion that we are judgmental pricks, to be honest with you.
yeah.
And it's and once they get to know us, it's like we're opening and we're our band, we're called to love everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
that's our
Mm.
thing. Like no matter what you believe, your political stance, your gender, whatever. We have fans of all that. So it's like we just want them to know that God loves them, you know.
Hmm. And that leads us kind of like to my next question for you. So when you feel that, because I expected that would be your answer. So what made you keep on going, for like a decade? I mean, why do you keep going?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's probably there's been many times where the band should have broken up for sure. You know, COVID, not playing for 2 years, even in the beginning, early stages, lineup changes. But there, I truly feel like this is something God has called me to do. Even when I haven't wanted to go really further anymore, like I love doing it. And there's always been that nudge, whether it's like we get an email from somebody, or a fan messages us, or there's always been that like keep going. And I can't stop, honestly. I love it too much, but there's always it's definitely God working in the background for us for sure. Otherwise we wouldn't still be a band.
I
Hmm.
love that answer. And Zach, I
Mm.
always tell the bands, you need to keep going until God tells you to quit. You know,
Exactly.
question.
And he hasn't
But,
told me to quit
but
yet. And I've
Yeah.
been through a lot of
and I'm
things. I've had
horrible
to.
with directions.
What's
So,
that?
yeah. No, it's just because that Bob, that one you used that quote in the last podcast, and I got so excited about it. Even sent it to Morton
Mm.
because we talk about this thing about age, and sometimes you feel like, why is God calling us now? I mean, why do we feel like an urge to play now? I mean, we should be outdated by now. We're too old to start something new. And so I even sent it to Morton and said, yeah, this is what Bob said in the last podcast. This is excellent.
Yeah. That's great. But that's kind of been my theme. I've hosted all the Immortal festivals, and this is our fourth or fifth year in Ohio. I can't remember. But that's one of the things that I share with the bands, and a lot of these bands are just kind of putting things back together, and some of them are 4 decades old. They haven't played for a while. But the question really needs to be answered. When did God tell you to quit? When did he tell you to quit? If you truly have a calling,
Hmm.
that calling lasts for a long
Mm.
time.
Yeah, I think that I'll know when God tells me it's time. You know, we've been through so much as a band. Our van and trailer got stolen a few
Whoa.
years
Yeah, I remember
ago.
that one. Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
Member changes, my personal life, I probably should have quit, having a kid, going through divorce, losing my father, so many obstacles, and living halfway across the country from my band. Um,
Mm,
so when people ask me like, can I do it? And I'm like, if I can still do it, you can do it, man.
I like that. And
mm,
can I share, Zach, that I think it's those kinds of trials that actually make us stronger. I
Absolutely.
mm,
when you're writing music or whatever it might be, that gives you a lot more depth, gives you a lot more real life experience, and a lot more to sing about because you understand not just the frivolities of life, but the deep dives, the things that really affect you, and the things that, you know, all of us sitting here, all four of us, have gone through very difficult times.
Hmm.
mm,
I know these
Yeah.
guys have because I've been there when they have, and I have too. And I think when we get started, I started, in helping to pioneer Christian rock over 50 years ago, 53 years ago, I think now. And, at the very beginning, when churches were very much against us, when they wouldn't allow drums or guitars in any church, and we just kind of had to start there. Um, you know, Comparing that to these days, I never dreamed I'd still be doing this, especially at 72 years old. I thought I'd be long retired. But again, and I think, Zach, it's a fair question, When did God tell you to quit? Because we have so many life lessons and experiences now to share as we mentor people with whatever God has brought us through. Yeah,
mm,
Hmm. Yeah.
absolutely,
And it's
absolutely.
just like you said, these trials and all that, it just fuel for lyrics. If you've ever listened to Convictions lyrics, all of our struggles are in there, our things we've been through, even from fans' experiences or people that we've met along the way. We've written songs about those, at least from their perspective. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where the name came from, actually, is just we wanted to be early in the band's making. We wanted to be a Christian band, but we never really thought like our lifestyle like kind of aligned with like we should be practicing what we preach.
Yeah,
And so I said, well, if we're gonna do it, then we need to be very honest and put all of our struggles in there. And
yeah,
then that's where we came up with the band Convictions, and you know, um,
awesome.
struggles with you name it, lust and greed, you know, drinking, whatever. It's all in there.
Yeah.
We're being honest, but at the end of the day, we find hope in Jesus. So,
And isn't that the important thing? Because being
mm,
transparent, we're always afraid to be transparent because we're
hmm.
afraid that people will judge us
mm,
by doing that. But I think people are looking for other real people. Not that we're without problems, but what do you do when you get in a situation where you have a difficulty? You know, what do you do
mm,
with, and that's conviction. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're immune to hardships
Yes.
or sin. You're gonna deal with struggles, Christian or not. So we're gonna put those in the songs.
Absolutely. So I have a good friend. He's passed away now, but Andre Crouch, that was very popular with Christian music, especially black gospel, for many, many years ago, decades ago. And he went through a lot of difficult things, and he wrote a song that says, "I've had many sorrows, questions for tomorrow. There are times that I didn't know what to do, but in every situation, God gave me consolation. I'd never known what faith could do. Through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend on His Word. I love that song, written from His heart, and it could be written from ours as well, because through everything, that's what people are watching. What great foundations to write music and perform from, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Morton, you
I
have?
have a question for you, Zach. Being in this for as long as you have and seeing as much success as you have, because I've known a lot of bands that started out with a Christian message and then they drifted slowly, especially when they saw some success, because maybe because it was easier. I don't know why these things happen, right? Who knows that? But do you have any tips or anything you can share on how you guys managed to stay close to Jesus in through all of this, throughout the years, lineup changes and difficulty, like you said? I mean, as a band and as a group together, because there's so many dynamics to that over the years, right?
Yeah, I think it's just the the verse that really comes to mind is like, store all your treasures in heaven.
Yeah.
Um, because there's been plenty of times where people have told us, higher ups in the industry or whoever, you should tone down the Jesus thing or whatever.
Mm,
And it's like, no, the we just won't be a band at that point, Um, that's what Convictions is and always will be. And it's one of those things like take it or leave it, you know?
mm,
And we will we'll pave our own way, We don't
Yes.
have to give up. There's a lot like you said, there are a lot of our peers that like they'll use the Christian name to piggyback and get themselves to where they want to go, which God helped them get there. And then
Yeah.
it's like
And abandon it.
then
Yeah.
they put God to the side or whatever. And that's just not going to be us. So,
Good for you. Good for you. I like
yeah.
it.
that's awesome.
Good. Right answer. Yes.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's tough when you play these big shows, when you're playing in front of 5,000 secular fans or whatever, and it's like, okay, um, you know, eh, do we've never been one to preach on stage. We don't do that. It just doesn't feel like our calling to preach on stage, but just to share like a quick message of like like I said, love. We're just called to love everyone.
Yeah.
So Mike usually says something along those lines. It's pretty clear as day that Convictions is a Christian band. We don't need to
Mm,
throw it down anyone's throat. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it gets tougher and tougher the bigger you get, for sure.
And
mm,
Zach, we we've learned so much about this through the years. I remember, years ago, some of our bands, and we thought, well, we got to preach from the stage. We have to share the gospel message, and we would clear out clubs completely. By the time they were done speaking, there was nobody left to speak to, and we had to really think through a lot of that again.
Yeah,
And we all realized that, if the lyrics portray the message, is that enough? And, loving people before and after the concert and portraying the love of God through the music, it doesn't always have to be, preaching as well. Some bands do that, and there's some great bands that do. Knowing when to
exactly.
and when not to do that is also important.
Because they'll
Yeah.
know you by your
mm,
fruit, You don't
Yeah.
have to push it on them. If anything, I think you're doing the opposite of what God wants you to do when you're doing that. Like you said, if you're clearing
mm.
out a club, I think you've missed the mark then, you
Yeah.
know,
I think so.
in my opinion.
Uh,
Yeah.
If no one's now you've just lost everybody.
Yeah.
You're not
And
influencing anybody. So
other ways to do it. Yes.
yeah.
So, Zach
mm.
Fox has a question for you. He said, what are musical influences of the band or with you personally?
Yeah, me personally, I um so my dad taught me how to play drums. And
Oh,
then I was really into like pop punk music growing up. Blink 182 or Newfound Glory, and so there's a lot of like pop drumming kind of punk in my style, and then but I've still been playing like metalcore for probably 20 years now. So,
Yeah, right.
got to have that double kick.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's interesting what our influences are, and there's some metal artists that their influences have been, jazz or R&B or things that you wouldn't expect. And
Hmm.
Mm.
I remember, years ago talking to, well, one of the biggest metal bands around in Europe, and their whole background was classical music, and you can kind of hear that in their stuff with a lot of key changes and tempo changes, and a lot of things that they would have in common with classical music. But it's interesting to see where people come from, I think, too. Yeah,
Mm.
there's lots of music. Did you guys
Yeah,
have more?
that's actually an interesting point, the
Yeah.
influence. I mean, that's one of the things Morten and I suddenly realized we actually had in common. Because when we started writing for At the Mountain, there were a lot of suddenly classical influences, and it turned out that Morten grew up in a background with classical music. I grew up in a family where where both my granddad and my aunt and everybody else were playing the organ in church and did classical musical educations at the music conservatories and things like this. So a lot of inspiration suddenly came from there, also in the soundscape and the way to do the harmonies and everything. Morten will know a lot more about it than I do because I'm a drummer, so I'm more into the beat and stuff. But
Mm,
it was suddenly interesting to suddenly find that common ground, and that was
yeah,
actually part of our inspiration as well in our writing process for getting this worship kind of sound, despite it still being intense and heavy, but still get some of those, what do you say, connections back to the old classical
yeah,
worship and hymns and so on.
yes, yeah, and that's a
Mm.
challenge, but you guys have done well with it. Absolutely. Guys, more questions, or do we have more questions from the audience
Oh,
too?
tons.
Yeah.
Zach, how do you guys come up with lyrics? Is it Mike or is it all of you? And also, what does the process look like from having lyrics to actually getting it out there? Do you guys sit down and talk about it, or yeah?
That's a great question. So, when I still lived in Ohio, we would all get together, like literally at a round table, and put the laptop on the screen, listen through like the songs that we had demoed out, sometimes very terribly, and then write the lyrics together. As of recently, since I've moved away and stuff like that, Mike and I do write all the lyrics, and we bounce them back and forth.
Mm.
Sometimes I'll write a whole song, or he'll write a whole song,
Oh,
and
that's
then we
cool.
give our own input and what we um, what we like or what we think we should change, stuff like that. Um, so
Mm,
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
the
Yeah.
last record, Mike did take on a lot of the heavy lifting on the lyrics with the last record because I was going through a lot at the time, but I do have lyrics in there. Like the song
Mm.
"Hurts Like Hell" is about my father. Um, I helped Mike a little bit on "Sleeping Lotus" and "Four Horses," but then some of the rest he took on a lot of the heavy lifting there. But yeah, we bounce ideas back and forth to answer your question for the most part.
Mm. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
so, Zach, curious. I've had musicians tell me, or songwriters tell me that they always write their best songs when they're a little depressed or really going through deep things. Do you find that true for the band as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's like because you're putting your heart out there, you're putting it all out there. So I think that there's a reason that it's like that because you're really feeling what you're saying, um,
Vulnerable.
versus just writing a song where, oh, this is cool or these lyrics are cool. When it's like really heartfelt, cry out to God. I think it's powerful.
Yes.
You know.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think people latch on to that. And I think that's probably our lyrics are probably really what make Convictions really so special. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that makes the music really relatable, doesn't it, Zach?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm,
People going, I
Yeah.
know exactly what he's talking about. I know how he
yeah.
feels. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
I
also
love that
have
honesty you mentioned.
some of
Go
those
ahead.
like heavy kind of shocking lyrics too that we'll do sometimes. Like in Stigmata, Mike and I wrote that song together. And
Great
you
song.
can crucify me upside down. That just people were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because
And
as you
one of
guys know,
also
a lot of
upside.
the disciples or historically thought to have been crucified upside down. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
and the lyrics are I won't deny my father's crown, so you can crucify me upside down.
I love that.
Mm,
And
Nice.
people are like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" And then we'll have
that's
like
heavy
an
stuff,
upside
man.
down. We have upside down cross on some of our shirts and stuff, and with the lyrics, and
Yeah.
people are like, "Whoa!"
Mm.
I thought you guys were a Christian band. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
this
like,
opens up
well,
some
we
good
are.
conversations, I guess.
It
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
great conversation starters, and we've had
Yeah. Yeah.
pastors come up to us at shows even
Mm.
and say that they've used that shirt in particular in sermons and stuff. So it's
Oh, wow.
helped people for sure. And we've been printing that shirt for over a decade. It's crazy.
Mm.
And it just sells out every time.
Love that.
I love when you do stuff like that, and it's not just a gimmick. It's not just to provoke people or do something, oh, this is different. But when there's a clear message to it, and there's some clever thinking behind it. It's not there's a
Hmm.
concept, and it's honest. It's not just to provoke everybody, but and to get a conversation going. Because of course it'll get comments on Facebook or whatever. But yeah, I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was something that we were a little hesitant to do. I remember when I
Mm.
first when go to metal shows and you see all the satanic imagery and stuff like that. And I'm like, how could we take and use that for for God? And then the whole upside down cross and like the origins and the idea behind it, I'm like, that was an idea I brought to the guys, and
Yeah.
I design a lot of our merch as well. And we had to really think about it and pray about it. And I'm like, well, if this is something we should do, I probably personally, I don't think I would wear the shirt, but a lot of people
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
we did it, and it's like it's helped stir up, I think, really healthy conversations that hopefully point people in the right direction, and ultimately, lead them to Jesus. So
Mm.
Yes. And
Mm.
Zach, also, for people that are curious about the lives of the apostles and Christian martyrs, there's a great book called Fox's Book of Martyrs that actually talks about being crucified upside down and all the history that we have available and how all of the apostles died. All of them died a martyr's death, except for John. Um, and they tried to kill him by burning him in a vat of oil, but he survived it. But you know, there is a there is a real testimony from martyrdom, and I love that, and I love the fact that you guys were bold enough to use that symbol that really gives people attention. Well,
Mm.
we have totally enjoyed having you here, Zach. It's been great to
yeah,
see,
Absolutely.
and
yeah, I've loved this. Yeah.
yes, and
Pop
I'm
by some other time, man.
yeah.
Yep. We want to hear how the tour went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I seen some people post in the chat that I might be seeing them on the road. So make sure you
Good.
say hi. And
Yeah,
if you
real
have any
quick,
more
Zach,
questions.
just real quick, who are you touring with right now?
So we're touring with a band called Heal the Hurt. They're
Ah,
a newer Christian band that just came out. Trevor, their lead guy. He took vocal lessons with Mike, and he also works very closely with our management. He's our kind of our media publicist kind of guy. So It'll be cool to hit the road with those guys.
Yes. And
Oh,
you
Mike gives vocal lessons.
He does.
I might hit him up
Yeah,
one of
so
these days.
yeah. If you guys are
I'd love
interested,
to.
hit him
I'd
up.
love to learn some of that because I only do clean singing, but I really want to get into having more of a
Oh yeah, he
stream
can definitely
to
help you
the
out.
vocals. I love his vocals. I also saw that he went. That's actually how I heard about you guys, when he was standing in for August Burns Red. I mean, Mike is a
Yeah.
fantastic, phenomenal singer.
Yeah, he's helped Trevor with Heal to Hurt. I know he helped there's this other Christian band kind of getting some steam called No Treaty. He's
Hmm,
helped those guys with vocal lessons
awesome,
too. Hmm.
awesome. I think I'll hit him up.
That's great.
Yeah, you
Well,
should.
again, you guys, it's been great. Our show we always run out of time.
Yeah.
I know it went too fast, I feel like.
Yeah.
But the chat's been great. Folks,
Good
don't
times.
forget to check out At the Mountain, and we'll be announcing more and more about that as we go, and the new record label, Intent Worship Records. I'm excited for that, and just kind of cool how God is leading in some of these areas. And Zach, I love your story, and we love you, my friend. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for representing Jesus in such a powerful way with convictions. And we're behind you. Hope to see you at a concert before too long. I'd love to.
Yeah, hope to meet you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.